Well, howdy everyone. Welcome to another playthrough of The Room. So these next few ones will be a little bit different. I ended up recording these without any audio. I did that on purpose because of my current living situation and the fact that we're doing a lot of renovating and stuff right now, so I'm recording these voiceovers at a different time when it's a lot quieter and I have the alone time to do it. But yeah, here we go. Plus I figured it might be a little bit better than just watching me like struggle. I mean, you're still gonna watch me struggle, but you don't have to listen to me struggle. I am honestly kind of garbage at this game. I'm sure a lot of people figure stuff out, but some of it gets a little overwhelming for me sometimes and I don't know what I'm doing, so I ask for hints a lot. I will just start with that. Anyways, I figured we might today go through a fun little list because I am one of those people that actually likes to make lists. I think list making is really fun. And so today we're going to talk about my favorite horror / suspense movies. This is probably not all of them, like ever, but this is probably a good portion of them. So we'll start with the Fear Street series. So the Fear Street series is one that honestly kind of took me by surprise a little bit. I remember hearing that it was going to be coming out, and I was like, ooh, that kind of looks interesting, and then I heard it was R.L. Stine, and that he had a book series called Fear Street that was like Goosebumps, but for like older kids, and I was like, ooh, I didn't even know that he had that. I've never read those. Now I have read one book, but from the newer Fear Street series, rather than his older series. I still want to read the older series. Point is, I really liked these movies. These movies were so good. I wasn't expecting a lot from them, but I still really enjoyed them, and I did watch all of them at least a second time, and I still really enjoyed them, even after, like, knowing what's happening and what's going on. They were just so enjoyable. There's just one part that I didn't like in all of the movies. Also, the first movie is like the goriest, so if you have been wanting to watch this series, I'm gonna try and keep these spoiler free also, but if you've been wanting to watch this series, the first movie is by far the goriest. I think it has the most murders in it, the most kills or whatever, but it comes out of the gate pretty strong. After that, it's really not that bad. It's not nearly as bad. I mean, the second one can be pretty gory too, but they don't really show a lot of it because of reasons, and I think it would be very controversial if they did show it, so they don't really show a lot of the kills in the second movie. So the first movie is pretty gory, which I don't really like that because I don't really like gore that much, but I do like slasher movies. It's a conundrum. Anyways, the one part that I really didn't like was that a certain person dies. And the only thing I will give away is that it's a her, and she dies towards the end of the first movie, and that's the only part that I'm gonna give away. So if you've seen this movie, you know who I'm talking about, most likely. This scene was very intense, and I honestly did not think that they were going to kill her. I remember thinking, like, okay, she's gonna make it out of this somehow though, right? Like, it seems like a really bad situation, but she's gonna make it out, right? And then, like, the scene isn't even that long, but I just remember thinking, like, she'll be fine. And then she wasn't fine, and I was like, well, shoot, I'm a little peeved now. And I remember getting, like, really upset over it, and it's weird maybe a little bit to some people for someone to get really upset about a certain character's death when that character is not even, like, a main character necessarily. But I got very upset, and I think it was partially because I was reading Clown in a Cornfield at that time also, and there was another character in that book who had died, who was like a secondary character, and it was a girl who seemed very similar in character, and like it just felt to me like their characters were cut down before they were fully developed, and so losing both of those characters in the movie and in the book, two different stories, but like similar character, potentially a similar character arc, but they died before that arc could be fulfilled, and so I think that's why I got so upset over it. But besides that one part that just breaks my heart every time, it was actually a very enjoyable series. It was very, very good. I kind of liked the campiness of it. It was definitely a little bit campy, but I liked it. I don't know. It was just really fun. It was a really, really fun watch. And like total. And the story was really good. They had like some things that maybe you could be like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I think a lot of it was predictable, but there was some of it that wasn't predictable. But even the predictable stuff was still fun to like experience and be like, ah, yes, I knew that was going to happen, but I'm glad that it happened. Like I knew it was going to. So the Fear Street series, super good. Monster House, which I think might be weird, especially coming right after Fear Street, but Monster House was a movie that, like, as a kid I would watch it a lot, and I remember being like a little spooked out by it the first time that I watched it, but it's just such a good movie. Like, it definitely is probably, especially for kids, a little bit spooky, like spookier than your normal, this is supposed to be a spooky movie, maybe. I don't know. It has like a really tragic story. If you haven't seen Monster House, go watch it. The animation still like looks really fantastic. But the story is like kind of sad, and like it kind of makes sense why the house is the way that it is, and I don't know, the mystery of it was kind of cool, and is really funny too. It's still really funny. I watch it like every year if I can, but it's really funny. So yeah, Monster House is definitely on my list. That one would be more like suspense, but I guess it has like horror elements technically, but in a kid-friendly way. Okay, and then there's the Babysitter series. So the Babysitter, when that one first came out, I remember seeing the trailer for it and going like, this looks like a comedy horror, or a horror comedy, however you want to phrase that. But I was definitely like, it just looks a certain way. Also, I was having such a hard time figuring out where the square was supposed to go in the game. But yeah, loved the first movie. I thought it was really funny. It was definitely gorier than I expected it might be. But it was really funny. It kind of went in some directions that I wasn't quite expecting. But otherwise it was really, really good, really funny. The second movie I liked a little bit more though. Like, I feel like the first movie really laid the groundwork so that the second one could like soar. But second one I think is probably my favorite. Super funny again. There's like potentially a little bit of romance in there, but doesn't really matter. I like that you can't, I mean, I guess you could kind of, but like you don't exactly know who the bad guy is. It's a little bit predictable, but it's not like super predictable. I didn't think so anyways. So like when it's revealed, then you're like, you might either be like, I fucking knew it was them. I wasn't totally sure, but I knew it. Or you might just be like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't know it was them. But yeah, it was really good. And then just the, like, where it goes, the places it goes, and like the twists and turns that it gives you, especially in comparison to the first one, like using the information that you have from the first movie, and then you watch the second one, like it's so good. They did it really good. They just did a really good job with the storytelling and everything. I would love for there to be a third movie, because I think there is potential for there to be a third movie, but I'm also kind of glad that so far there isn't a third movie, because they don't really need a third one, but it would be cool if they had one just for funsies. Spontaneous is another one. So this one is not a horror movie in the sense that like someone or something necessarily is killing people, although I guess you could say something is killing people, but it's in a very different way. So I'm not really talking plot on any of these, I just realized. But Spontaneous, I'll start talking plot now. Maybe I'll go back to the other ones later, I don't know. But Spontaneous is about this one particular class of high school students. So like class of 2009 or whoever. I don't remember what year it is. 2016, 2018, 2019? I don't remember. 2007? It's based on a book. So I don't know what year it is. I kind of forget. But anyways, it's this particular class of high school students who are spontaneously combusting, which is why it's called spontaneous. They are literally exploding. These kids are just randomly exploding. And no one can figure out why. There doesn't seem to be any kind of pattern or any kind of trigger for why these kids are exploding. Oh, by the way, I'm letting you guys read these. I don't know if my words are getting in the way of that. But yeah, so these kids are just randomly exploding. At the core of it, I think it's mostly a love story. It's this guy and this girl. The girl is the main character, but this guy and this girl kind of meet, and it's like a little weird and awkward, but also like in the best way. You know what I mean? Like it's really cute how like awkward and weird it is at the beginning, but it's like it's really endearing and adorable. And they have this love story, and it's really good. But in the meantime, a lot of stuff is happening around them. A lot of their friends and their classmates are exploding and just dying, and like the government gets involved at some point trying to figure out why is it just this one class of high school students. It's no other high school students in this age range or this class. Nowhere else is it happening. It's just this one high school class. And I love this story. It's really heartbreaking towards the end, and the only thing that I really, really didn't like about it was that you don't get any answers. You don't know why. You never figure out why kids started to explode, and you're never told why it suddenly stops, but it does. There's not even any clues in the book that or not the book, sorry, the movie, that they might give you to be like, yes, I think that this is why certain things were happening. Like when I was watching it, my partner was like, people are exploding every time that she bends down, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's actually a pretty good theory. And then I was thinking back on some of the deaths, and I was like, that can't be the case though, because this person exploded and she was straight upright, so that can't be the case. It can't be when she bends down. But like the whole time we were trying to figure out like why are these people exploding? What's happening? It was kind of a mystery, but it was a little disappointing to discover that there was no answer at the end of everything. There's absolutely no answers for anything. So that was a little disappointing. Also, this segment, I had such trouble. I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this light? I don't understand. And so you'll see me struggle a bit because I didn't realize I could move a certain part. But yeah. So that was Spontaneous. I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's really cute. It's very sad at a certain point. I was crying so much. But yeah, so there's that one. Odd Thomas is also another one that is kind of heartbreaking if you've seen it. It's based on a series of books that I haven't personally read, and I kind of want to read them, but at the same time I don't, because I think there's like 8 books or something like that, and that's a lot of books. And I like reading, but I also struggle with reading. I don't know if anyone else, I mean, I'm sure other people are like that too, where like I read a ton as a kid, and then as an adult, like after college and everything, even during college, I just really started to struggle with reading, like on my own time. And that hasn't gone away. It's been like 6 years, almost 7 years, and I still really struggle with like reading. So I don't know if I'd be able to get through 8. 8 seems daunting at this point. Back then in high school, it would not have seemed daunting at all. I'd be like, I can finish that in a month. But now I don't think I can do that. Anyways, love the movie. It's got Anton Yelchin in it, though, which also is a reason why it's heartbreaking. Because if you didn't know, he died. He died years ago, but it was really sad because he was like one of my favorite actors. I loved him. But anyways, Odd Thomas is this kid who can like see things that people can't see. I forget what they're called. They're not ghosts, but they're like some kind of malevolent spirit and stuff. Like maybe ghosts also, I think. But he can see things that people can't see, that other people can't see, and so he's a bit odd. But this one also has like a love story in it, and I feel like there wasn't enough of the love story in the movies, honestly. It could be even more heartbreaking if certain things happened and like there was more inclusion of certain characters and such. I like, it's really hard to say all of this stuff without spoiling it, but it was a really good movie. It's a really fun ride. Pretty wild also, like lots of stuff happens in it. And like I so wish that they would have had a sequel to it or started doing the series. I looked it up before I started recording this though. So Odd Thomas came out in 2013 and Anton Yelchin died in 2016. Which really sucks because even if they did start doing a series with it, I don't know how well the Odd Thomas movie did. But like if they were to do a movie series with it, then they probably wouldn't have finished it or been able to finish it if he ended up dying still. Which you never know. Even, who knows? He maybe could not have died if they did the movie, because maybe his life would have been different and he would have been in a different place and then he wouldn't have died. But that's all speculation. Point is, not his death, even though I'm very sad about it still. Point is that the movie was great. Movie's really great, and with the way it ends, obviously there's a lot more that can happen, which I think is kind of the point of the books too. I think something very similar happens in the books that leads him to kind of like leave his hometown and start doing other things, and that's where all of the other books come from. But it's just such a good movie. I wish it was a series. It's not, but it's a really good, like, solid standalone movie also. Train to Busan. This is, like, one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't really like zombie things. Being eaten alive is one of my worst fears, and so watching horror movies with my worst fears in it is the most terrifying, and it sticks with me afterwards, because after I've been exposed to it, it's just constantly on my mind, right? So yeah, I typically don't go out of my way to watch zombie stuff too often, but Train to Busan was the first Korean zombie movie or story of any kind that I had seen, and they fucking knocked it out of the park with that one. Like, it was so good. It was so good. Absolutely one of my favorite movies. I bought it on a whim. It was on, like, DVD or Blu-ray or whatever at Target, and I just remember, like, seeing trailers for it and being like, this actually looks kind of interesting. Like, the zombies don't look too bad. It doesn't look like it's going to be super gory. So it seems like an interesting zombie movie. I will totally watch this. But I couldn't find anywhere that was streaming it at the time. And I think the only other way that you could get it was to probably pirate it. So, and I was like, I ain't no pirate. So, I decided to buy it. I just saw it on the shelves at Target, and I was like, getting that. So I bought it, and it happens to have my favorite K-drama actor, or Korean actor, I can just say. He's in a lot of K-dramas, but Korean actor, Gong Yoo. I freaking love Gong Yoo. He's like my favorite of all time. I swear to God. He's so handsome and so talented. He seems like such a nice man. Anyways, absolutely in love with him. I adore him. So he's in it. But at the time, I didn't really know about him. I can't remember if I saw Train to Busan first or if I watched Goblin first. But I think I watched Train to Busan first, and then when I saw Goblin, I was like, oh hey, it's the dude from Train to Busan. And there is a Train to Busan scene in Goblin where he's screaming at the at the movie in a crowded theater, which I thought was just hilarious because he's in that movie and he's playing a different character screaming at himself on screen. It was just really funny. So yeah, freaking love Gong Yoo. Train to Busan, absolutely amazing zombie movie. If you like zombie movies because you like the gore of it, you're probably not gonna like it, but if you like story-based zombie movies like I do, you will probably like this one because that's what it is. It's story-based. And they do a really good job of it too. It's so good. I cry at the end of it every single time though, like uncontrollably. I can't not cry because it's just so heartbreaking the way that it ends, but it's so good. Ugh. I love movies basically where I feel all the feels, if you haven't noticed. So yeah, especially horror movies. If I'm really sad when characters die, I struggled with this key thing. I was so confused. I was like, it fits. What are you talking about? I think I have those two mixed up, the top and the side one though. Anyways, yeah, really great movie. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. If you want some like something that's kind of similar, I recommend Kingdom, which is pretty good, and also why am I blanking on the name of it? What is it called? Kingdom is the movie, I think, and then there's another Korean zombie horror, also historical thing, TV show, Rampant. Rampant is one of them. No, Kingdom is the show, Rampant is the movie. That's what it is. I always get the two titles confused because they're both very similar in their plot, but one of them has Hyunbin in it and the other one doesn't. And one of them is a movie and the other one's a TV show. Kingdom is the TV show. Rampant is the movie. Very, very similar. Slightly different kinds of zombies. They're historical, but still really good. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So funny. I like this one because it plays on horror tropes. Because, like, it's all of these kids that are, like, camping in the woods and they're telling ghost stories. And then there's, like, these two hicks just, like, in the woods. And they're not bad guys at all. They're not bad guys at all by any means. They're just kind of going about minding their own business. But because the kids are freaking themselves out with, like, all of the talk of, like, scary stories and stuff like that, once they see these guys, they automatically think that they are, like, serial killers out in the woods, when that is not the case at all. And so these kids are basically accidentally killing themselves, but then the survivors think that the dudes in the woods are the ones that are killing all of their friends, when their friends are just fucking themselves up. And it's a great way that they play on the tropes. It's really funny. It has a great ending. Like, it's a blast. It's also very gory, which is an issue, but it's funny. So there's that. The Invisible Man, absolutely terrifying. At the time that I watched it, I was in a very toxic relationship that was also a bit abusive. So that one, like, when I was watching it, like, really stuck with me because while my situation was not in any way as bad as the main character's situation, it still, like, I understood where she was coming from. I understood the fear and the paranoia and all of that stuff because I kind of experienced it also. So that one was terrifying for me for a completely different reason, because, like, just because I related to it so much, because it's about this girl who leaves an abusive relationship, but then she, like, can't leave her house because she's convinced that he is out there stalking her and he's going to attack her and kidnap her and bring her back to his home and try and control her and, like, potentially kill her. So, like, it's just, she's, like, convinced, and everyone thinks that she's just super paranoid. She's very traumatized, you can tell. But everyone thinks that she's kind of just being a little paranoid. Like, it's been a while, you need to get over it a little and, like, start going outside, you know? And then the guy dies, but she still feels his presence, and she's like, I don't think he's dead. And if he is dead, then he's haunting me, or something is happening, because he's still here. Like, I can feel him, I can hear him, I feel him looking at me. Someone is watching me all the time. And it's a really great movie. It's incredibly terrifying. There's some really, really intense and surprising moments. If you haven't seen it, beware the restaurant scene. That's all I'm gonna say. That one got me, and it still gets me now. Yeah, I've seen this movie, like, a couple of times now, but it's just like, oh my god. It's a really great movie. I kind of don't like the ending, because her character completely changes in, like, a not good way, but realistically it also kind of makes sense. But I just, like, It made me a little sad, the ending. That's the only reason why I didn't like it. I think that the bad parties involved get what they deserve, but the good parties involved don't really. And that's kind of what I'm going to say about that. So, yeah. Crimson Peak is another one, and I'll talk more about that one in another video. Here's some more stuff to read. Pause if you want, but I have it here. But yeah, I'll talk more about Crimson Peak in another list video because whatever, but this one is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is another one that I watch all the time, like constantly, whether or not it's like October or whenever. I just love it. It's a great love letter to gothic horror and gothic romance, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful movie. So wonderful. Absolutely love this movie. And then last but not least, there is the Fright Night remake. So I have not actually seen the original Fright Night. Oh, we're almost done. I have not actually seen the original Fright Night. This one also has Anton Yelchin in it. But this one was so good. This one's also a little funny. It was super enjoyable. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of suspense. There's a little bit of mystery. You kind of know who the bad guy is, like, immediately right off the bat, but you don't know what he's gonna do. You don't really know exactly what he's capable of. And it's just really good. The way that they did everything, it was really good. And it was, like, a lot of fun, a super wild ride, also hilarious. But yeah, so that was my favorite horror and suspense movies. Some honorable mentions that I'll give super fast is the Scream series, which I should put in here as my favorites, but whatever. The Scream series I love. Hush is really great. Thirst is a Korean vampire movie. The Final Girls is another, like, funny horror movie that plays on tropes, but it does it in a really great way. The Cornetto series, like Shaun of the Dead and all that stuff. The Awakening, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Kingdom, which I mentioned, and Rampant. Heathers I'll include in here because it's kind of horror, but funny. And also not really horror, but whatever. Cabin in the Woods, another one that plays on horror tropes. A Quiet Place was really, really good. And Mom and Dad, all I have to say about that one is Nick Cage is in it, so that one was really good. But yeah, that was my horror movie list, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry that I'm bad at puzzles, but it is what it is. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!